Lawless, you see that multicolored cat on their sweatshirts, and they also share the same coach in Manu. So picking primarily on their own in this one, you have to wonder, does the experience of Ruben picking solo for a long time outweigh the upcoming talent of Pedro?
Mortar at the bridge, immediately responded to by the Little Prince. This is a very hectic start to the game. We see a lot of pressure coming down the lane. Mortar's gonna get some solid damage, and Ruben taking the lead.
Chaotic start, and Ruben comes out on top and gets the extra shot from the Mortar, ahead by a little more than 600 HP.
2 minutes, 16 seconds left on the clock, 1:14 until the double elixir time. Both players taking a moment here, and we do see another Mortar from Pedro.
So nearly a mirror match here, maybe a full-on mirror as we get deeper into this game, and Mortar lock now for Pedro. His turn to get some good damage.
Yeah, I mean, this is fascinating. Like you said, almost complete mirror matchup, but you gotta favor Pedro in this mirror matchup. This is his bread and butter. Minor, poison, mortar. That being said, Ruben in a very solid damage lead, getting it even further with these goblins.
And now he goes Evolved Mortar in the middle to control the classic version of Pedro, and his Goblin will, of course, help get that down just a little bit. Little Prince to clean up the minions as we get past the halfway mark of our opening three of the lead for Ruben, 2168 to 1458. And, you know, Jackson, you have to take into account in this matchup, not just Ruben's skill level, but he's been playing live on stage since he was 14 years old. Legendary at Team Queso, playing in Spain with huge, loud, wild crowds over there. And you have to imagine that the bright lights here do not faze him at all.
Absolutely. Here we go. Evil Mortar at the bridge. Minion's gonna try and take that down. Miner's doing a great job of tanking, but Mortar is done. Ruben doing a great job of, like you said, you know, taking that heat. He knows how to defend, and he gets it done.
Miner goes to the number 3 spot, courtesy of Pedro. We'll get some good chip damage here as Ruben tries to defend his Mortar against the Little Prince, but it does survive. And now it's Pedro's turn to turn a Mortar into a wasteland.
Miner in the very back right. Pedro predicting in the anti-mortar placement that Vito was talking about earlier. A lot of the time you see Miner being placed in the placement to distract the Mortar.
And you see Ruben here doing a great job of sucking out the Miner on defense. The more you can keep that Miner of your opponent from playing offensively, of course, the more you can extend that lead. And right now, things looking very, very good for the 2020 MVP.
Pedro knows that he can't come back with just Miner chip, which is why we're seeing him use a lot of Mortars in offense. He needs that Mortar connection to win this match, but Ruben is going to keep applying the same pressure on the right-hand side.
And you see Ruben kind of just ignoring that Miner fully, and that's quite a lot of damage to take at this stage. His Mortar evolved, not going to turn, but you see Pedro now taking pretty much a full Miner.
Little Prince ability, Little Prince dealing quite well from that. Here comes the Miner again. Miner to defend the Miner is not looking great for Pedro, especially with 3-card cycle activated for Ruben here.
Little Prince does defend for a moment, and look at that. Guardian does get out to help keep that Mortar up. Log to protect as well, get a little bit of chip damage. And again, Ruben extending his lead. And you see the grimaces from Pedro. I don't feel like we saw this much expression from him during gameplay throughout this year, and now he's definitely showing his emotions on his face.
Miner plus minions. Miner to tank the minions here. Minions to defend the Miner, and another Mortar at the bridge. That was a tongue twister.
You got through it very nicely, though, Jackson, as the Ice Spirit goes down and the Little Prince comes out to stop the Mortar from connecting. 497 to 1072. Miner of Pedro goes to the back. Miner of Ruben does not connect. Poisons, though, in to extend that lead. This is a little closer, I think, than maybe Ruben had anticipated, but he is almost there for his next poison cycle.
Miner in the back. Mortar is locked on tower. Poison drops down, but I think the poison's going to take it in time.
And it's a photo finish. Ruben gets it done by 155.
Wow, that Mortar shot was in the air, Rich. It was so close to landing and taking that game. Like you said, I do not think that Ruben thought it would be that close, but Pedro, you
had 3 accounts in the top 10, and he's continued to play like that throughout this year.
Yeah, I mean, ladder's one thing though, but we have duels formatting. We have a lot of differences here, and looks like he's gonna start this game with a Mother Witch versus Skelly's a decent start.
And maybe Balloon here from Ruben. Musketeer, an interesting choice as your glass cannon.
Royal Recruits at the bridge, Phoenix to prepare. I mean, we see a Royal Recruits Hog Rider coming in here. What a play in the Tombstone's late.
Wow! Pedro blinks and Ruben runs right on past him. That tower is absolutely shredded. Not long for this world it stands, but oh my word, Ruben comes out with a bang.
Pedro trying to counter push. He's got the Skelly King. He's got the ability. He's got a lot on the board. Ruben has 3 elixir. Is that going to be enough to deal with this defense? There goes the ability. Does he have the small spell? He goes for the arrows. But look at this tower.
Wow, just a slobber knocker, a slugfest. Shots both direction, and just like that, we are pretty much all tied up, tower down, and Pedro right back in it.
This is wild. This is something we are not used to seeing in the Clash Royale League, but we've seen a couple times today. We just see pressure at the bridge. Mother Witch out cycle, I'm going for the recruits. I'm going for the hog. And Pedro doing a great job of staying calm. Like, I don't know if I would have been able to make that play to go in and take that tower.
Well, again, you talk about a guy who has been phenomenal, does not get that fireball onto the Musketeer. She will be healthy behind all of this as the Rage works to get that Hog Rider down, but Muskie going to do triple duty here, working in the bridge fight, on the Skeleton King, and now on the Phoenix.
Is going to take the Phoenix Egg out as well. All in all, pretty even, but Ruben's doing a great job of pressuring with the Fire Spirit to make sure that this Musketeer is forced to be responded to.
Do we see a pocket play from Pedro? Probably not yet. It is only at 5 elixir, but that is now open. You see the Tesla maybe there to predict the pocket drop instead. Pedro, RG's up in the back.
Ruben gonna do the same thing. He's gonna play his evolution in the back. Next cycle, both of these Evos will be in hand, but you can't help but be a little bit in the driver's seat if you're Ruben here, because those recruits are gonna do a great job of stalling these RGs.
This time, Fireball plus Rage gets the Musketeer off the board very easily. Second Tesla down. Pocket now exposed, though, for Ruben in the next exchange, and he gets his Evolved recruits down very quickly. Maybe looking to cycle back to a Tesla in the next couple of cards.
Skelly King doing a great job of preventing any sort of counter push. Fireball, last card for Ruben, gonna drop on top of that Mother Witch.
And here we go, Musketeer, Tesla might go to the opposite side, spread out the Fireball targets, and the Musketeer still working against this Evolved Royal Giant. Arrows have to come out defensively. Look at that recruit, though, the Evolved recruit all over the King Tower, and suddenly Pedro having to defend on 2 fronts.
Wow, tower's down to 1134, because that recruit is just barely out of range of the Princess Tower, getting so much damage.
And this makes Fisherman so much harder for Pedro to use. Can't really get involved offensively. Obviously, not a great offensive target out of all these ones, but he doesn't want to pull that Musketeer. Has to go with these Fireballs because he needs to save that Fisherman to pick up the dangerous, opportunistic hog you might expect from Ruben at some point.
I love how Ruben's constantly cycling these Musketeers. It's very difficult for Pedro to deal with them. It always forces out 6 elixir.
Can Ruben just defend from this point, or does he need to extend this lead? He has a pretty sizable margin.
Yeah, I honestly think that he's good to just keep defending. He's cycling recruits, always getting the Evo version down. And that's the thing about recruits, they kind of play themselves. Not only can you defend with them on the right, but they're always going to apply pressure in the left-hand lane.
Fisherman down. Is this an opportunity with some pressure on the left-hand side? No, goes for Fireball on the Mother Witch instead. Final minute, triple elixir. Pedro facing the possibility of dropping down to the lower bracket. Has to make something happen.
Skelly King in the middle to take out the Tesla. RG is locked on tower for at least 2 shots. I mean, that's some damage.
That's big damage. Fireball in, and suddenly we are close. Fisherman, though, walking away. Tesla there. Arrows trying to clear. Hog does not get the shot. The Fisherman turns around and might have just saved Pedro's game.
This game is so close. Musketeer dies to the tower. Here goes the evil RG in the pocket. Tesla trying to deal with it.
Oh, he's on the tower! It's on tower! The evil RG beats the Tesla, and Ruben has to go to game number 3 against Pedro.
Are you kidding me? Ruben and Pedro, game 3. I mean, you guys are right. This side of the bracket is monstrous.
You're playing...
That situation actually is what made it so difficult for him, because the Tombstone and the Fisherman are such great counters to the Hog Rider.
Lack of rage does limit the options that Ruben's concerned about, so not worried about Sparky himself. Goes ahead and plays Sparky on his side of the board. An immediate Hog Rider right into a mini P.E.K.K.A.
Mini P.E.K.K.A, quickly enough place, always going to counter that Hog Rider for an even trade, and then counter push, forcing Pedro to get this Tesla out early.
So full-on aggressive early Goblin Giant Sparky push. Rage does get the distraction there onto that Mighty Miner, and it does go down. The Sparky will not get the shot off. And now Ruben has to deal with these archers.
Here comes a Hog Rider as well. He does not have many P.E.K.K.A in cycle. He's forced to go for the Dark Prince. This Hog Rider is at least getting 2 shots here while the Archer kind of chips away at that shield.
So if you're Ruben here, other than the mini P.E.K.K.A, obviously, how are you preparing for when that Hog Rider out-cycles you?
Honestly, I've seen a lot of really, really good Sparky players play. A lot of the time, they'll play the Sparky and back, even when they're not at 4 elixir, or full elixir. So a lot of the time, you'll see just 6 elixir Sparkies in the back to block that lane to make sure the Hog Rider is never able to break through.
An early Earthquake cycle for Pedro. And you see right there, as you're talking about, the Sparky being cycled into the weak side lane.
Yeah, and a lot of the time you can do that versus big spells like Lightning or Fireball or even Poison, but Pedro having the Earthquake here means that it's not going to get good value on top of that Sparky.
And it does get the Electro Spirit off. Not exactly what you'd love from a Sparky of all of its possible targets. Hog should be able to break through for 1, and it does.
Wow.
And look at those Evo Archers, but they switch targets as the mini P.E.K.K.A is slightly pushed back by the Hog Rider.
Skeletons distract, Tesla's still alive a little bit. Everything's raged up though. Mighty Miner plus Snowball to try and slow everything down and take it out. I love this ability though.
And the ability does reset a bit. Phoenix will put some death damage on there, but still the lead for Pedro. 47 seconds left and ahead by about 800. Now add that EQ.
Earthquake getting some nice chip. Another Sparky doing a great job of just blocking his lane like we talked about. But the thing is, Pedro doesn't exactly need to go for more Hog Riders. He's got his damage from the early game. Now he's content to defend quite well these E-Spirits and chip away with Earthquakes throughout the match.
And good skeletons here for the high distraction against that Sparky, but it might shoot on the tower, and it does! The Archer stays too close, and disaster strikes for Pedro.
Are you kidding me? The splash radius was absolutely brutal there for Pedro, and Evil Archers are going to kind of stalemate here. No, Evil Archers from Pedro are going to stay alive. Now Pedro's in a situation where he needs to get that damage back, and he cannot make another mistake.
And Dark Prince now opens up dual lane pressure for this Goblin Giant Sparky deck, which could also be a huge problem going in. And now Ruben's just piling it on here at the bridge.
Yeah, Dark Prince as well. Snowball trying to slow everything down. Sparky does shoot the 1 skeleton. No, the E-Spirit gonna reset it, and this defense is solid.
Well, Pedro certainly has been capable defensively, and mini P.E.K.K.A not back, so Archers have to defend. Snowball gonna get some good damage here for Pedro, who might get one more, and he does. 6:04 left, and once again, the big swings of this match, Jackson. Game number 1, haymaker after haymaker, and suddenly Pedro has drawn blood.
Yeah, that's Snowball once again. It's a mini freeze, somehow slowing everything down enough to get 3 hog shots. It's up to Ruben now to break through before these Earthquake cycles finish him off.
And these Evo Archers are a huge problem for Ruben. Dark Prince gets out ahead, Sparky does some of its work, but these Evo Archers staying alive and getting so much value. You see Ruben shaking his head. He knows he can't do anything about them. He has no spell to attack. He has no way to get there. Just raging up a mini P.E.K.K.A, and that's it. GG, well played. Welcome to World Finals, Pedro.
Pedro with the reverse sweep. Absolutely astonishing us all with this beautiful gameplay. And like you said, those Evil Archers at the end really just clinched it for him. There was no way he was going to break through that.
And
sets yesterday. Pedro going with Miner, Little Prince, and Mortar, so medium cycle there. Now we see some wall breakers out of him to start, and then Samwell on the other side of it was going R-Hogs EQ with Evo'd Archers, so both of them pretty fast in their game number 1s, and looks like Sam's going to slow things down here a bit, and a perfect King Tower activation there from Basoda.
Beautiful tornado, perfectly placed, and I love just not defending the Miner so that it can continue to change the tower, allowing for that to happen.
And Pedro hoping that Sam is not running E-Giant, with that Mighty Miner being his response.
That's a great call. It's either Slash Shard, but it definitely could be E-Giant.
Yep.
Pedro, on the other hand, Miner, Poison, Wall Breakers. Pedro's actually the #1 Wall Breakers player in Clash Royale League 2023.
Yeah, that is a very, very cool thing to say, or that title to have. And again, you talk about that cycle play that he has, and makes a lot of sense there.
So it is going to be Little Prince Splasher from Samuel. Going against Minor Poison, not really what you want to see, especially when your opponent has goblins and archers to defend those graveyards.
Absolutely. Definitely would have rather had E-Giant here in this situation, being able to NATO all those small squishy cards together. Obviously, Mighty Miner becomes a lot less effective, but we've seen Samuel play through some tough matchups before, and right now Pedro, an perfect 3 untouched towers. As Sam does have King Tower activated, but lowest tower on his board is 2642.
Tombstone, just to reset, Wall Breakers are going to be kited. Tombstone is a passive building, meaning it doesn't attack directly, and that means it actually has a larger hitbox, which will make sure to have a bigger hit radius.
I didn't actually know that's why.
Yeah, those passive buildings just gonna be able to pull a little bit more. Poison gonna drop in Little Prince here. I'm not sure if it will fully kill it though. Goblins gonna keep it in range there. That was a very nice attention to detail.
Yeah, really nice split Goblins there to make sure that Little Prince stayed in that poison. That's the last thing you want, is to spend all that elixir on poison and have the Little Prince still be something you have to deal with on the other side. And Samuel looking like he could be pulling the trigger on his very first graveyard, and there it is. Poison in, Evoed Archers up high, poison opposite lane for Sam.
Yeah, that's the thing about those evil archers. They are forcing you to poison them out, or else they'll get too much value. And even before the poison takes it out, they wiped out the knight, they wiped out the baby dragon, the push was done.
And what's really nice about that is, you know, being able to place those archers in the opposite lane, not giving poison value on the tower that your opponent is really focusing on is again, you talk about changing up the way you play cards, and that makes your opponent change up the way that they want to clean up.
And here's the graveyard on the right-hand side. That's a really nice play. You always want to be going same lane as your opponent, but Samuel's left side tower is lower in damage. I love this tornado though. Baby Dragon locking on tower.
That is huge. Pulling that Mighty Miner back and caught Pedro looking 2100 as Sam takes the lead by just a bit.
The best play for Pedro in that situation would be to pop that Mighty Miner ability when predicting the tornado. That would have allowed the Baby Dragon to get pushed backwards, but we have a very even match because he didn't do that.
And next GY comes in here. No tank, but Skelly's tanking maybe for that Little Prince. Archer's cleaning everything up as a couple poisons come down on the board as well. 1904, 1977.
I want to point out that that graveyard got 0 skeleton hits. Samuel needs to play his graveyard one more tile to the right to ensure some sort of skeleton connection.
Yeah, the traditional graveyard placement has been changed up a little bit now that poison doesn't fully clean it up if placed like what you're saying right there, Juicy.
Tornado going to get a little bit of chip, but a nice Goblins plus log is going to really prevent a lot of these skeleton hits.
1846, 1830, neck and neck as we tick into triple elixir, which is technically where Sam should be able to run away with this, but we all know what Mighty Miner does to a Miner poison with a 3-card cycle in triple elixir. Very difficult to keep up with as Sam gets very aggressive.
Sam also has a 3-card cycle with the Little Prince. He goes to the graveyard, he gets a poison down for damage. He pops the ability to keep his Little Prince alive. He needs another graveyard ASAP.
Little Prince gets taken down, 1460 now to 1459, separated by just 1 HP. 30 seconds remaining. You see how Sam wants to clean up these wall breakers. Nice high Baby Dragon and clean them up. Does not. Ooh. Wow, almost one. Almost got away.
Here comes the graveyard, poison as well. Evil Archers plus Goblins, a NATO. Is this gonna be enough damage? I don't think so. I think Pedro is going to be taking this match.
And does it get the catch? Samuel Basoto, but Graveyard comes in. Is there enough time? A lot of damage done here by Pedro, and it looks like he could be taking game number 1.
Wallbreaker connects. Pedro taking game 1 in style.
And what a game number 1. 595 remains on Pedro's tower, and a pretty fortunate matchup there for Pedro. And a quick pause here as we are hopping into game.
I'm going to call it right now. Samuel Basoto using Mega Knight Goblin Giant right here.
And Evo Archer's out first as Pedro is holding, and a Mother Witch. Mother Witch causing a lot of problems yesterday. Sam goes EQ, so most likely going to play some Hog.
Yeah, Earthquake. I wonder if Samuel has the log. Log will kill this Mother Witch, but I think he might have used it already, which means a snowball. No, he has it. Perfect.
Sam, an exceptional Hog EQ player. Maybe considered the best in the world before a certain someone decided to take that title from him.
Yeah, Mohamed Light.
There he is. That's who it is.
It is a pleasure to watch him play Hog EQ, but Samuel, like we talked about, his win rate really bolstered by the addition to of evolutions. So, and he's got the pigs as well.
Piggies, okay, so he's gonna go piggies instead. And an MK comes out. Excuse me, Mini P.E.K.K.A.
Mother Witch gonna be turning the pigs into pigs. That's kind of weird. I'm not gonna lie.
Freaking me out up here, man.
Log coming down, countering the pig, damaging the Mother Witch. I mean, this is fascinating to see. We see that a lot in Clash Royale League, though. Both of these players being patient, waiting for a mistake. Not even a mistake, maybe just even an inaccuracy before they can capitalize on that.
Sparky coming down in the back, and Sam doesn't really have a great opportunity to... and there you go. Piggies come out, going very aggressive here, which is exactly what you want to do with that Sparky. Ice Spirit here going to try to freeze up that tower, maybe make something happen with that Evo'd Archer, but a nice high Knight, which means you can't really support the Sparky, which is nice for Sam.
Sam gonna just delivering, play it safe. Log of the Knight. Knight will get one shot, letting his opponent get a little bit of damage to conserve some elixir, and then capitalizing, going for the Goblins left, forcing the Mother Witch, pigs on the right.
And that Mini P.E.K.K.A. will do a decent job cleaning up, but still some good damage will come in here for Samwell.
Got 4 more pigs on the left from the Mother Witch. Archers, not perfectly split. I mean, you have a Goblin Giant. The bridge is tough for Sam to defend, but he's got the bomb tower, and he's one of the best micro players in the game.
And that is giving a good amount of fireball value, though, as this Goblin Giant should get, maybe, no. Archers coming in to clean everything up, and that'll do a good job against those minions as well. 2202 to 1780. Samuel Basoto in the lead currently. We'll see how he wants to maybe split these piggies, maybe just go all to the left now. There we go.
Great call. Mini P.E.K.K.A. going to defend, Rage as well. But the Mini P.E.K.K.A. attacks the one piggy that didn't get hit by the Rage. A small mistake, allowing for a little bit more chip.
And Sparky a lot healthier this time around. Going to be another delivery on top as those goblins go out to pick up the Mini P.E.K.K.A. Very happy to have that delivery is Samuel Basoto.
Yeah, the delivery makes such a big difference. A lot of the time, pigs do quite well versus Sparky, while Hog EQ doesn't, just because of that one difference in the deck.
And a nice sell-out push here on the right-hand side. Gets some good damage out of it, but now Sam has an Evo Knight to contest with and a Gob Giant Sparky push on the right-hand side.
And that Evo Knight tanking the left side towers, allowing this Goblin Giant to stay quite healthy. Not to mention this Mother Witch making things quite annoying. He's opting to take some Mother Witch chip to make sure that no pigs are spawning in.
And Sparky gonna get nice and frozen up there, but an aggressive push on the left-hand side. No deliveries, so Sam has to pull those minions to the middle, but they're raged up. They're making light work of those goblins and this tower, but a nice defense from Sam, though, still taking quite a bit there on the back end.
Here comes the pigs, but the Sparky predicting the pigs, locks onto the middle one as well. Those pigs are gone. He did get some chip, but this is going to be a massive counter push from Pedro.
Yeah, you see that they are even in elixir, but obviously a Sparky is on the board, so Sam going to have to opt to get a bomb tower down early. There it is. That way he can maybe get back around to it. And he's got to get some archers out as soon as he can, but not giving value to that fireball and hoping to pick up those minions was Sam.
Love the Evil Archer's value here. We need to see pigs on the left-hand side. He goes to the right into the Sparky, though.
Yeah, right into the Sparky. Those pigs are not going to do anything. He does get the Ice Spirit connection, I guess, if you're looking for some, a silver lining, but not the best.
Pig coming in, and we have another Evo Knight tanking for another massive push. Sam only has 30 seconds as well to break through, and this Sparky's clogging the lane.
And the second bomb tower comes down. Archers cleaned up on that right-hand side. A sellout push on the left here for Pedro. And Sam trying to hang on for dear life.
This defense is fantastic. Gob Giant comes in, but he's back to another bomb tower. Sparky does not get the shot. Evil Archers in cycle, and that is game, I think.
Samuel able to bounce back once again after a rough game one. He's done it 2 days in a row, and we are going to game number 3.
That is exactly what I want to see between these two players as well. Like I said, Mohamed Light's rival that he said was his rival, and then the real rival, in my opinion, Samuel Basoto, the one who was the only one to beat him this year.
Yeah, and that was a very, very fun back and forth there in game number 2. The defense was impeccable from Samuel time and time again. Always had...
Yeah, Boulder, I don't think either of them have used them. So maybe we will see some Boulder action, maybe some Boulder Goblin Giant from one player, maybe some Boulder E-Giant from another. You never know, but it's going to be Evo Skellies from Pedro and Evo Skellies from Sam, so maybe that is not correct at all.
Snowball comes in here for Sam. Maybe it could be Hog Rider, and there we go, Hog Rider from Pedro.
Monk on the defense. Does decent, but the snowball slows everything down.
Is that another hit? Does it get the last? No, it does not, but still up by 1,000 already is Pedro. We'll see how Sam wants to respond.
Pedro's turn to use the delivery, and Samuel using a miner here. Will the Monk ability pop? Yes, it does. That's going to do a great job of tanking for this miner for maximum chip.
Yeah, that's actually a great little bit of damage there. 2672 to 2044. Musketeer comes down in the back. We saw Ruben do great work with Musketeer yesterday, who has really fallen out of favor here in the meta, considering how good Little Prince and Archers are. But I'm still happy to see Muskie showing up at World Finals.
The big thing I want to note here is Samuel used Poison Game 1 with Splash Shard. So this is going to be most likely a Monk Balloon deck from Sam. And looking at the matchup, it could be pretty solid. Pedro does have the Snowball, but the Little Prince may be his only air attacking unit. And we all know that only one champion can be on the board at a time.
Pedro has played a lot of Hog Rider throughout this year in 2023. He's played it 38 different times with a 71% win rate, so a deadly man with that Hog Rider.
Evo Skelly's at the bridge. They do get taken out by the arrows. Monk counter pushing with this Musketeer. Delivery drops and everything, plus a snowball to really prevent any balloon from happening, though.
Sam goes up front here.
Excuse me, do you know who I am?
And a nice high Tesla to make sure that Hog does no damage and then can maybe help clean up this counter push coming from Pedro. 1 minute remains here in regulation as one of these gentlemen will be sent down to the lower bracket. The other one will continue on up top and face Pandora tomorrow.
I really love these Tesla placements from Samuel. He's playing it one tile away from the river, allowing for an anti-earthquake placement, meaning you can't hit the Tesla and the tower with the same earthquake.
Balloon down here for Sam. Sam not running a ton of Balloon throughout the season, but does have a 63% win rate with said Balloon, as another Hog Rider is coming in here for Pedro. Maybe a little too aggressive, Juicy.
It's aggressive, but it's also defense in the same way, allowing the Balloon to go in front of the Monk. Now this Monk is not getting much value.
And that is a great call there as those Evo Skellies pile up. Another Hog Rider here comes in for Pedro, but Sam ready to go with that Tesla. 2074 to 1718. Now that all cards are shown, we'll see how these two want to adapt moving forward, pushing that Musketeer forward, hoping to get Guardian or Little Prince on top, but Samuel says, I need to protect that Muskie. As he gets a second one down, no shots in and a lot on the board.
Two Musketeers are going to get taken out by one delivery.
Yeah.
Miner coming in for a chip, but he's got the Ice Spirit Skeletons. I love his use of that cycle. Saving those cycle cards to defend that Miner is perfect.
Well, the amount that Pedro can do at the bridge with that delivery, we just saw right there. Like you said, cleaning up two Musketeers with one delivery. Then he's allowed to clean up that Miner with Skellies plus Ice Spirit. So positive trades all the way around here for Pedro as Sam is struggling to hang on. And we got an Evo Skelly battle at the bridge. You love to see it. Wow, one almost snuck away and it baited out the snowball.
It does bait the snowball, but look at the Hog Rider. It's being tanked for by the Evo Skellies, but it doesn't get the hit.
1284, 2025, Pedro in the driver's seat. 80 seconds remain here. Battle of Brazil.
Samuel just needs one really good balloon push with the Monk in front, but Pedro's done such a great job this entire match of stalling the Monk at the bridge to not allow it to tank.
Getting some chip damage in here is Pedro. A nice catch there with that Ice Spirit for the Musketeer and pushing it opposite lane. That was so clean.
But he takes the opportunity to tap the opposite lane. There's two Teslas on the board, though. Sam doing a great job of always keeping one up. Evo Skeletons coming down here. We see an Earthquake cycle. 45 seconds left on the clock. Monk at the bridge. He needs a massive connection.
Yeah.
But look at Pedro's use of the 3-card cycle to always make sure to have multiple Teslas down. It doesn't seem like it's possible.
No, I mean, Sam really having a very, very difficult time, whether he's changing lane. He's got two balloons down, but that's a great delivery. You know, Tesla can come down as well, so great delivery value there and nothing to tank for. Oh, the balloon is getting tanked by that Miner.
But look at the Guardian. Guardians have to be stopped by the Musketeer, and there goes the Hog Rider. He has enough for the Tesla now. Anti-EQ placement, but he's applying pressure, not allowing Sam to go on.
And the Hog connects, and Sam knows it's over. Pedro takes down a world champion and then world number 3 on back-to-back days. And Samuel goes down below to face off against who? Mohammed Light.
I cannot wait to see the world champ play against his rival. I mean, Mo always says it. Pedro has a very similar play style as him, and after watching this game, after watching that Hog Earthquake, I have to agree with him.
Some really clean stuff, and I gotta say that.
The crowd really wanting to see some mortar here. Maybe we'll have Pedro have the mortar right here for the Hog Rider. No, he goes for the bats and the goblins. It still gets a hit though.
Wow, and a lot of elixir spent from Pandora right there. The snowball, earthquake. He's gonna be down a lot of elixir. Pedro, how is he going to want to abuse that? Goes with a little Prince in the back. We should be seeing a decent push right now from Pedro. I mean, he could have the Royal Delivery as well, but Pandora's using up all of his spells.
I can't help but think that maybe Pandora got a little bit lucky there. If Pedro had the correct cards in hand, like the Goblin Giant, to punish that massive elixir spend at the beginning, this could be game over already, but instead, Pedro not having the right cards to punish, he has to cycle out the little Prince and that Rage, and we're in more of an even game now.
Pedro going to still go in with the Goblin Giant, even though he did have that most likely poor cycle early on. And this Tesla plus Knight plus Skellies, these are all going to put in a lot of work. But again, I mean, he was just down so much. Can this bowler get taken out by the splash from the Firecracker? Great defense from Pandora. No panic whatsoever. Gives up one little Spear Goblin Chuck, but not too bad. Pedro forced out to defend.
Fisherman in the middle with the boulder will get King Tower activation. Will it stop the Hog hit? Yes, it does. Wow, fantastic defense. But Pedro's offense here, this counter push is looking crazy. If he can get a Goblin Giant here, it could be game over.
I mean,
I'm not sure he hasn't cycled though.
Are you kidding me? We're gonna defend like that? I was going to say, oh, why does he not Fisherman try and pull the Hog into the King Tower? But it really just doesn't matter if you can make placements like that. The bowler, in order to push the Hog away from the tower, great placements from Pedro right there. You have to be so impressed.
Ability from the little Prince, gonna get that Guardian out there to make sure the Firecracker is not splashing on that tower. And I can't help but once again just point out how Pedro's cycle has been a little bit messed up this entire game. Pandora reaping the benefits of that here with a bit of a damage lead. And I love the opposite lane pressure though. You cannot always go same lane in this matchup versus that bowler.
Right there, Goblins to defend, does not have to worry about the pre-log, considering Pandora does not have a log in his deck. So Pedro just going to utilize that bowler very, very well and sets himself up with another bowler already. Two big purple guys on the map.
Yeah, not only that, a little Prince as well. He's making sure no Hog Raiders are allowed to go anywhere. So forcing Pandora to actually use his elixir defensively on these Teslas to just prepare for that defense. But here comes the push from Pedro.
And right here, Fisherman going to yank itself into the range of the Tesla. This is looking like a mighty fine push, but again, another Tesla placed down on the map. We're just gonna see if one of these bowlers can get any sort of value, but Pandora putting on a clinic right now, defending absolutely perfectly, and again, Ice Spear, but that is a mistake. No, not going to matter. Will want to make sure that his placements don't take out the Teslas in the future.
Evo Knight at the bridge. Evo Bats on defense plus a little Prince. I love the snowball onto these Bats though, and this Hog Rider is getting some massive damage. Pedro needs to counter push here, but it's so difficult versus these Firecrackers. Pedro's last spell here is Lightning, which means this Firecracker is getting massive amounts of value.
Right here, these Firecrackers flying away from the Little Prince, so that way the Little Prince is taken out fully. 1 minute and 30 seconds left, and Pedro just has not had an offensive push whatsoever. These Goblin Giants are getting taken out so easily.
Here comes our first lightning of the game. Rage as well. This Goblin Giant's pretty healthy going towards tower, but the Ice Spear plus Firecracker and the Knight is doing a great job of controlling. Earthquake wipes out all the Goblins as well. This is a masterclass of micro interactions from Pandora.
Yeah, Pedro still trying to look for just any opportunity to go in. Bats on top of the Firecracker, trying to take that out. Does so nicely. 900 HP separating the two players. And I mean, really, what are you supposed to do? He's tried going double bowler. He's tried doing everything and anything. Right here, Fisherman to set up the Hog, going to the King Tower. Going to defend it beautifully, but he can't do anything on offense.
We have two Goblin Giants on the board. Maybe he can get it done right now. Lightning is gonna drop right now, hitting absolutely everything. Range up, Goblin Giant is locked on tower. Oh, Pedro making the absolute fantastic comeback. I can't even speak, this is insane.
The Ice Spear gets taken out, not gonna make the jump. Pedro come from behind, victory, triple elixirs. was all he was waiting for. And Pedro, the lightning, the beautiful lightning, taking out the Tesla, the firecracker, a little bit of damage on top of the crowd tower. He was waiting for that moment.
Yeah, he waited for that moment.
Game number 2 underway. Pedro going to be running Miner. Juicy, you've talked about how Miner has struggled so far in these World Finals, but I feel like it was Pedro that was one of the players that was able to have success with it. Am I crazy? What's going on with that?
You're absolutely right. Pedro was able to win a match with Miner Poison. I also want to point out how Lightning is now not going to be available for Pedro. So I think he's going to lean on this Miner Poison, and it seems like maybe he's going to get a decent matchup, but I'm not sure though. Pandora actually going to be using, I believe, some Recruit Bridge Spam here.
Oh, that is right. We've seen this deck before. I think it was on day number 1, Lumberjacks, Skeleton Dragons, and there we go. Crowd erupting right now because the Mortar is finally played by one of these players. Mighty Miner plus the Ice Spirit will come down and should be able to take it out very, very nicely. No Mortar shot onto the tower, but that's not a problem. Pedro just going to reset, but this time with the Mighty Miner on the board. Goblin Cage in response from Pandora.
I cannot help but be just as excited as the crowd for this Mortar because Pedro is the best Miner Mortar Poison player in the game. It is his best deck. He's finished on ladders so many times, so well. And Pandora, on the other hand, using more of a aggressive offensive deck, I can't but think that maybe Pedro's got a pretty good situation for himself here. Although you do have to watch out for the arrows' value. Those arrows are going to do so well versus the minions and the evil archers throughout this match.
Wow, great interaction knowledge from Pedro. And will we get another? I mean, you said it yesterday. It always gets that shot. Mother Witch going to come out right there in a response. Archers not going to focus on top of the Mother Witch, so Pandora going to clean that up nicely. But Pedro, I love this deck choice. I feel like we've seen this Mortar Minions Goblins variation sometimes this weekend. Instead, going with the Evo to Archers, no Little Prince action. Pedro with a huge lead going against Royal Recruits, Ram Rider.
Minions in the back, whereas Pedro does have the Mortar, which has done great for him on offense so far. As we head in this double and triple elixir, Mortar is not going to be the building of choice that you'd like to see for defenses versus these recruits. You'd much rather have a bomb tower in this situation.
Right there, will the Ram Rider be placed down in time? I believe so, and it absolutely does. Fireball gonna come out, take out most of these troops, but there we go. Mortar getting another shot. Pedro just knows how to have a Mortar find the tower.
Evil Recruits are on the board. Mighty Miner ability taking some shields off. They're all going to start charging. Ice Spirit perfectly able to stop every single one of them. Recruit gets a little bit of damage to the left. Will we see that on the right as well? Yes, we will.
Wow, 2 shots coming in from the Royal Recruits evolution. Pedro, I mean, it's hard to expect perfection from him, but we always do. And right there, just a slight mishap with those interactions.
I love these Skeleton Dragons over the river. Rather than going for a Fireball onto that, not only does he get these Skelly Dragons down, but they also are able to get a little bit of damage and apply a little bit more pressure.
Good Ice Spirit jump right there, going to defend the right lane very, very easily. These minions are getting a ton of value, but he will have to be careful about that Mother Witch. Mother Witch placed over the middle, unlocking an offense that we have not seen very often throughout this tournament.
Evil Archers going to be protected on the left, but Fireballed out on the right. This Mother Witch is a pain to deal with for Pedro, but he's still... Wait, no, he's actually down in damage now. Wait, he's actually losing at this point.
Right there, almost into triple elixir. How does he want to respond? Mighty Miner over the middle, and I don't know if this death damage is going to be able to work. It does for most of the troops, but not all. The Miner comes down just in time. Look at the left lane. The left lane, Goblin Brawler on top of the tower.
And the Ram Rider.
Lane. Oh!
The Mortar just barely gets down in time. Fireball inbound, Evil Archers. He's stayed alive for now, but he has only 47 seconds left to make this comeback.
Miner minions at the bridge. And I mean, he's going to be able to get a little bit of damage, but Pandora controls his own destiny at this point. Mother Witch cycled behind the crown tower. Left side low, right side low. How does Pandora want to attack?
If Pedro wins this game, that would be one of the most fantastic matches I've ever seen, but he has a lot to do in only 20 seconds. The tower is down to 500 HP at this point, but Pandora only needs 2 more fireballs.
right there. Log plus poison, and the Miner going in the back.
Miner is caught. Fireball inbound. Will the log do more? Another poison here. Arrows in. 3 seconds. Who's gonna win this match? And Pedro gets a 2-0 sweep.
How is he getting down in time? Poison. He cycled those poisons so quickly. I swear he had 7 seconds left in the game. The first poison goes down. The log goes down. The 3-card cycle gets another poison. How does he do it? What did you say? One of the greatest matches ever? I think that's what we just saw.
I am speechless yet again. Pedro, a rookie, his first World Finals ever, taking down Pandora, his 3rd one. I mean,
I don't know if you saw what I did there. Yeah, thank you very much.
Dang it.
And Mugi going with what we now call the Mohammed Light opening, with the wall breakers behind King Tower.
Right there, it's a very simple play, but if they split the minions behind the King Tower, you can get maximum value, taking out all the minions and a little bit of chip damage on the Crown Tower.
So might we expect a Mega Knight Prince here out of Mugi in this deck, Josh?
Yeah, you have to assume with the arrows plus wall breakers, that's always looking like it's going to be the case. And on the flip side, Pedro, again, running Mortar. I mean, this is why Mohammed Light was talking about him as one of the most feared opponents. Even if you're able to predict him running that Mortar, he's just so fundamentally sound with it.
Reminds me of another player who had a phenomenal World Finals debut back in 2019.
Oh, that's right. Oh, I forgot to mention that. But yes, Pedro is having the run of his lifetime, and it is exactly like what Igor was able to accomplish with Team Liquid back in 2019.
And this is a huge counterplay out of Pedro very early, getting this right-hand tower down to 2271 and decides to keep the pressure on.
Yeah, and right there, Miner in response for Mugi, but Pedro up Elixir, able to protect it beautifully right there, especially with the help of the log. And Pedro doing his little happy dance, making some really good plays.
And again, just protecting the heck out of this mortar, and it gets a lock. Miner on the tower, and you see Mugi, the tilt of the head. Maybe cannot believe how far in the future Pedro's been so far.
Pedro, at this point, still up 1 Elixir. One of his mortars cycled, so that way he's closer to his evolution. And right now, there it is. There's the second mortar. Mortar evolution going to be on its way next time it gets placed down.
A lot of people have asked, who the heck is Pedro? Who is this guy? And it's really because he almost wasn't even on the map last year, but then began this 2023 campaign with a #1 finish on Ranked in February, alongside 2 other top 10 finishes on alternate accounts.
Right there.
Yeah, go ahead, Josh.
Right there, Mega Knight getting a great jump, taking out the Little Prince almost all the way, and that would have been absolutely massive if he could have protected the Little Prince properly. Goblins in response, and that's going to be a mortar lock. No! Arrows are going to come down just in time, so great defense from Mugi. That was looking scary for him.
Both players take a moment to reset. Final 10 seconds of regulation time. Sudden death on its way. And Mugi just has not figured out the math for this matchup yet.
Poison over the middle of the map. Ice Spirit as well. Going to take out the Ghost as well. So again, Pedro, knowing his interactions, knowing that it's going to be taken completely off the board, and when you are forced into positions where you have to do the Prince against the Mortar, it is just so ugly. It is difficult to defend properly, and we see it right there with a Mortar lock.
This is a lot coming in now. Miner goes to the Evolved Archers, Ice Spirit plus minions for the wall breakers. They get them all. Does the Prince charge? No. Log in. Still has to contend with these bats. And right now it's Mugi putting the pressure on.
Yeah, right there. Beautiful stuff from Pedro. He's going to allow a little bit of damage, but he's not going to allow the tower. Instead, the bats lock on, but the goblins come down just in time.
70 seconds left. Lead for Pedro is substantial, almost 1,000 HP in that
Your king over here.
900 plus range at the moment. But Triple Elixir does allow these Mega Knights and Princes to begin to stack.
And right there, Pedro recognizing the matchup and how he's supposed to play. Will he activate the ability? And he absolutely does. Right here, the poisons are always going to be super valuable. We're going to see the poisons every time the archers come down on the board.
38 seconds left. Healthy Mega Knight and Prince on the right-hand side. Poison no longer available for those evolved archers in the middle. Royal Ghost getting away on the left-hand lane. Miner has to defend against the Mega Knight in the middle. Royal Ghost plus evolved archer on the left-hand side. And now suddenly, significant damage on both sides.
Yeah, right there, the Miner is going to chip away. We need the Miner on the left side. 17 seconds left.
Pre-goblins in the back for Pedro. Mega Knight comes down, Mortar high. Ice Spirit to reset the Miner. Arrows come in, another Miner down, poison ticks. That will not be enough, and Pedro is one win away from our grand final.
Incredible work from Pedro right there. He allows the Miner to lock onto the tower, the Ice Spirit to redirect the Miner, and that's just great. He doesn't want to give arrows value. He can't allow the arrows to take out the Ice Spirit.
All right, guys, stop. It's E-Golem. That would be crazy if that actually came out right there.
I've got a good feeling it won't.
So Pedro going to the archers as his evolution here in game number 2.
Doing it for the fam.
And Little Prince out for Mugi with the poison not available. And that's a lot of graveyard damage very early, Josh.
Yeah, that's right. Huge cheers for Mugi right there. Pedro just messing up the defense, and it really is as simple. This is one of the most basic tips you can ever have for graveyard. Archers are out of cycle, let's go all in.
And now trying to get some of that back is Pedro with Bowler and archers behind this Electro Giant.
Bowler getting stuck right there, and that is very unfortunate for Pedro. If the Bowler had just bowled one time, that could have been very intimidating for Mugi. Potentially could have flipped how much damage both of these players have done. Instead, Mugi in the driver's seat.
Well timed by Pedro, setting up that tombstone in the back. And now another slowdown here as Pedro just chooses to change the conversation to the other side of the arena.
So the reason why we're seeing Tombstone placed in the back behind the Crown Tower is because, well, actually, no, just kidding. I was thinking that he had Lightning for Mugi. That's not true. That's what's in Pedro's deck. Instead, just trying to slow down the game. That's why we're seeing the Tombstone in the back.
And again, continuing to want to make Mugi switch lanes. No problem there for the former world champion playing Graveyard.
A lot of splash yards seen today, and we haven't seen a ton of success so far, but we might be seeing it right here. Great start for Mugi.
And the Bowler, a little bit of room. That's an aggressive evolved archers here.
And right there is that 3, is that 4 bowls on top of the tower. We see Mugi upset right there. It is shocking how the Bowler was able to get so much damage. And that's actually one of those things. The Knight, it's supposed to be so great because ranged troops aren't going to be doing a ton of damage right there. It's able to stay alive and allow the Bowler to bowl.
And Pedro gets an extra shot from the archer on the left-hand side, so suddenly the change of lanes has given him the lead, 1837 to 1261.
So right now, Tombstone in the back, not allowing for him to go all in, because if he does, Pedro's just going to be able to block everything at the bridge and force just defensive poisons throughout.
Graveyard down on the right-hand side, Tombstone in reply, Baby Dragon holding the line, so the tankage is not happening. Bowler in. Significant damage. As we are in sudden death, Mugi has nearly tied things up.
Doing it for the fam.
How does Pedro want to respond? Split archers behind the King Tower. Mugi could be getting very aggressive right here, and he does. Knight Graveyard at the bridge. NATO in response, not going to allow a tank, and the tower, with the help of one archer and the Baby Dragon, going to clean up everything very nicely.
75 seconds left. The margins so close between these two.
And one thing I've recognized throughout this tournament is that bridge bowlers are so valuable because of those tombstones and the fact that these tombstone skellies are going to be taken away, and we see it right there. That is huge for Pedro.
Nato pulls things back. Bowler does go, but does not take the Little Prince off the board. Finally, Little Prince gone, and now Pedro poured it on in the left-hand lane. Graveyard play probably incoming here, or was that just a feint from Mugi?
Right there, Archer's in response. Tombstone is going to stay perfectly healthy. Will the bowler get a shot? Oh my goodness! Knight does not kite, but that's okay.
Electro Giant in, Tombstone to pull all the way over. Bowler goes to that left-hand lane. E-Giant does not pull with the Tornado.
And right there, 1203, 300 HP separate in the two plays. He needs to get a Tombstone down, and he does.
13 seconds left. 886, 922. Graveyard and Poison in. Tombstone, Baby Dragon to defend. So are the Archers. Lightning. Will it tick enough? 587.
Oh,
no, it
Pedro does it!
Oh,
Pedro does it!
Pedro wins by 18 HP.
The Graveyard not getting the chip. Everybody complains that the Skellies always get the chip. Not against Pedro. He does it! Mugi needed to be just a little bit quicker with his Graveyard. Did not happen. And Pedro sweeps Mugi to move on to the finals.
Oh my word. And the crowd starts to get into it. They've been loud all night. But now they got the big one.
And Hog Rider out early here for Mugi. It has been his favorite win condition this year in CRL, having a lot of games played with a beautiful win rate.
And Pedro puts Knight in the back, and a little bit of a deviation from his normal fare where you typically see that mortar come out, maybe trying to be a little unpredictable here with it all on the line.
46 plays has Mugi done in CRL with the Hog Rider. Tesla, the building of choice here in 2023 World Finals.
And Pedro varying position right out the gate, getting the correct read that
Future
almost certainly he is not against the Tornado.
And Monk is just everywhere, does so well against Little Prince, does so well against those Evo Archers. Gets a nice pushback there on Guardian, goes targets the Little Prince.
And Pedro with a small elixir advantage, but nothing really to take advantage of it. So splits Goblins high, Tesla out, easy response, and Pedro reading something there as he cycles that Knight.
2 untouched towers, top of your screen, but only a lick of damage on the bottom right. As we see another Hog Rider come in here from Mugi, and right now I think they're just feeling each other out, Rich, trying to see how, if anyone's gonna make any mistakes early, and then I imagine once we get down to a minute left of gameplay, things get a little spicier.
Oh, certainly they will. And interesting you see, you talk about that feeling out process, Andrew, the not playing an Earthquake early on that bomb tower, instead just maintaining this even game.
Yeah, same thing there. You're talking about with getting that miner cycled in the back. Pedro knowing that's his best response.
Oh,
look
wow.
at that. Goes for the King Tower activation. Learns that from Air Surfer. We saw Air do it earlier on today, and we saw how much that helped that game.
And there you get really in high relief the thing that we saw happen in Mohamed Light's matchup against that Monk, how wide that earth is that you have to give it for the reflection.
And it's so funny, you know, you talk about that on broadcast, and I think a lot of people were kind of like, well, that's not, is that a duh statement for pros? But if you saw online, there were so many people that were talking about, oh yeah, that range, that splash, that reflect, I can't believe that it actually got the reflect back. And, you know, if it's able to trick Momo, it makes a lot of sense.
Hog to the opposite lane here. This time, now that we're in double, you see the not just Earthquake, but Snowball as well. Mugi selling out for one hog shot on the left.
And I like that. He goes and recognizes that he's not going to really be able to break through in single elixir, so how can he make things happen? And then you talk about Pedro. I've heard many people talk about this. First of all, it feels like he's just playing ladder. He just keeps coming out with the same thing. You kind of heard Morton say it. It's like, you know what he's going to hit you with. He's going to hit you with minor poison control, and guess what? You cannot stop him.
Mugi going for some creativity here. Hog way in the back. Earthquake does not get on the bomb tower. Little Prince trying to stop the Hog. One shot will get it anyway, though. And look at the Miner on the opposite side. Blow for blow. These two are trading as we enter sudden death.
And it's so impressive because you look at Pedro being able to keep up and have the damage lead with just basically that Miner plus poison chip. These Hog Riders have connected a few times, and you see right there, he just goes, all right, poison on top of one archer, no problem. Mugi continues to sell out. Perfect timing, though, on the defense.
Pedro opening up the lead a little bit. 80 seconds left, 13:58 to 16:33. Pressure stays on. That Ice Spirit is not available to reset that Miner at all, so has to rely on the Evo Archers as Mugi sets up his next monk to the left.
This is just so crazy. You know what he's gonna play. You know what he's coming out with, and you just cannot seem to break through. You know, you think you maybe just go straight up counter for minor poison, but look at this. Perfect defense after perfect defense. Mugi trying to beat the cycle.
And the late bomb tower stops at 8:89 to 10:66. We are very tight.
Guardian plus Little Prince at the bridge. Miner now to the back. That's it, Rich. That's tower down. That's tower down.
Little Prince ticking away. It's staying up, and that's it. Pedro is one win away from being world champion.
A big sigh and then a little bit of smile here.
A little bit of shaky fingers there from Pedro. Maybe finally the moment is starting to click for him that this could be it.
$250,000 is a life-changing amount of money for anyone. But you talk about a rookie, how young you are, how fresh and new your career is. $250,000 on the line.
And that rage, you see Pedro take a moment and evaluate. Has a feeling he's against the deck that has done so much nasty work this weekend.
Yeah, that Goblin Giant deck with the minions and the Evoed Bats has been so tough to keep up with. And Pedro sitting back, leaking some elixir, leaking a bunch of elixir, trying to think just how he wants to move forward here.
A little chip damage left-hand lane. Both players slow things way down. First minute passed, and just a little touch on the bottom right and on the top left.
What's fascinating about this is Mugi was not going to hold at all, but then based off of Pedro, who apparently has struck a little bit of fear in our former world champion, he goes, all right, fine, I guess I had to slow things down, play at your pace, and just several seconds away from getting into that double elixir and figuring things out moving forward.
Well, Mugi just got beat by Pedro with Electro Giant not 20 minutes ago. Maybe half an hour ago. So he's sitting here seeing the Evo Archers and the Barb Barrel and wondering if he's about to suffer the same fate once more.
And 17 seconds remaining before we get to double elixir, and you can imagine this is going to be a hot and heavy last minute of regulation. Again, Mugi back against the wall, facing elimination. Pedro with lives to give, with a set to give. One game away from glory.
And Team Bowler goes wild. Not sure if that smile from Mugi was in response to the cheers. And it's Bowler plus Mega Knight.
A very, very heavy deck, which makes sense why Mugi wanted to slow things down. There's the Goblin Giant as well. So busting out, pulling out all the stops is our 2021 world champion. Skeleton.
Maybe Royal Giant here instead of the Electro Giant.
Yeah.
With the Phoenix in tow, and of course the Skeleton King.
Bat's getting great value on that left-hand side. Nice value fireball there as well. And those two Phoenixes will be distracted. There's the RG coming down. Fishboy right in front of that King.
And Mega Knight comes down to help the DPS, but that's going to be a few big-time shots. Lead opened up for Pedro, 23-31.
And this is a great counter push. You get the Goblin Giant behind the Mega Knight. That way the Spears can help out with the Phoenix. Then you have the Evo Bats coming in. The Phoenix Egg pop. I don't know if that Fireball was actually necessary, and we will see. Pedro gets that Fisherman out, though, just in time, Rich.
That is a clutch King Tower activation. Some Spears still get on that right-hand tower, but Pedro able to get his Evolved Archers out and set up for his next push.
Another Goblin Giant coming down here from our former champion on the right-hand side. The rookie, though, ice in his veins.
A Goblin Giant, a Mega Knight, a Bowler, and Rage all on this left-hand lane.
That Bowler is raged up, but still he's just kind of caught in traffic over and over. These defenses from Pedro have been pretty clean, but nice damage there on the left-hand side for Mugi.
Not quite caught up, but very close, courtesy of the left-hand tower of Mugi, down to 1999, is the current biggest lead as the former champion sets up in that weak side lane.
1 minute remains in what could be the last match of 2023.
Just piling everything on here at the bridge, trying to find a way to break through. Rage just not quite doing it yet. Pedro managing his cycle very, very well.
Rich, the rookie, looks like he might be taking this already, completely controlling this game. Now, finally, the second RG comes in.
And goes to the non-bowler side, which is interesting. Does get one more shot, but keep in mind, both those sides fairly even. Has not opened up a more significant lead as the Goblin Giant comes in the Tombstone.
The MK hits the Tombstone! The MK hits the Tombstone! That Goblin Giant can get to tower!
Fireball onto the Evolved Archers. Fishboy not doing very much, and suddenly the lead in both lanes. Heavy for Mugi. Pedro with his last gasp here in game 2.
We're going to game number 3. The Fisherman connects on the right side. Damage on the left, and Mugi stays alive!
And you saw Pedro taking a look here, evaluating potentially, but no Evo Archers, so a different variation would be necessary.
And a good luck in both directions, and little extra couple bit of emotes there, and you can't call that BM. That's just love going back and forth between two competitors that respect the heck out of each other.
And not a big surprise here for Hog Rider out of Pedro. Wants to play just reflexively, reactively.
And Mugi may be going back to wall breakers. He had a lot of success with it in his previous set against Pandora. Would love to see that. I believe it's his second most dominant win condition.
And certainly looks like that might be the case.
Don't you know who I am?
We saw some Hog Rider Royal Ghost Bandit. Now we're seeing Hog Rider Royal Ghost with Prince. And I like what we're seeing here out of Pedro. You know, a big stray away from just completely controlling the game.
And wow, recruits are huge here. You have to imagine Pedro, after Fisherman being out, wasn't expecting maybe to be against the recruits. And here he finds himself with a lot to deal with.
This dual lane pressure is scary. MK comes down. Great job by Mugi, though, not using the ability there. Maybe expecting the MK to come down after seeing Prince and that Royal Ghost. And had he used that Guardian ability, Rich, that could have been a lot of trouble.
Hog in now that the bomb tower is out. Miner to mitigate the damage. This is going to be a few big-time shots, though, with no King Tower activated, just the Miner and the Log. Forced expenditure. Mugi survives and gets damaged, but finds himself very down on Elixir.
Yeah, really, really nice there. I mean, kind of making something out of nothing in terms of that defense. Gets some good wall breaker connections on that left-hand side. Doesn't take too much damage on the right. Continues the damage lead on both towers.
Excellent little kite there from the Spear Goblins.
Yeah.
But as we go into double Elixir time, Mugi just getting a little bit more chip here.
Kneel, numbskulls.
And I like what Mugi's doing. He has to continue to go into that opposite lane. He cannot try to ram his head against an MK Prince Royal Ghost push with a Firecracker, Hog Rider, all that. He needs to make sure that he is splitting up his opponent's attention.
Pedro opting to take one here, and that's a well-timed Guardian.
He needs another tank here, and there they go. Evo recruits come in.
And that will open up some damage for Pedro, but Mugi now putting tons of work in on both lanes. Arrows finally come out And Pedro stops some wall breakers.
16:33, 22:96, 15 seconds remain here in regulation of game number 3.
Prince finally not facing goblins or recruits for a half second. Log for some knockback. Can it get to? No, the defensive wall breakers stop the Prince from getting to the bomb tower. Bats trying to clear. Hogs should get one.
And that was a great job of Mugi mitigating that damage from the Prince, having to pick his priorities there. Does take care of the Prince, and like you said, takes one shot, but he's using his health as a resource. 12:28 now to 18:50.
Continuing to get poison value is Mugi just over and over again. And Pedro doesn't have many options to not give it to him.
And I like this opposite lane. Arrows should come out on top of these wall breakers. And now Mugi setting up for defense once again. High Evo recruits, regular recruits.
And Pedro must be happy to have all those in one lane for once. Of course, the evolved ones will be coming very soon. Now Miner plus Spears left-hand lane for Mugi. Bats trying to hold, but that's a ton of damage. Miner on the tower, Spears do a ton, and Mugi has opened this thing wide open.
Royal Ghost does connect, but a great job there with the wall breakers, Rich, to stop that Evo Firecracker. Seems like the most dangerous part of that push. Mugi did a sellout push on the left-hand side, gets great damage out of it, and perfect defense, and now should be back to Evo recruits. There we go.
Pedro's having so much difficulty with the miners because the best ways to catch them are tools he really needs for offensive pressure. And there you go. Miners in, Wallbreaker in, Prince finally able to stop a miner, but then recruits come right behind him.
4:05 to 9:47, but miner chip is all that Mugi's been getting here late. And you know that's just a couple hog hits, an MK leap. He's got to play perfect now, just needs to poison it out.
Poison in. And that's it, Andrew. We are going to a bracket reset, best of 3 for the World Championship.
And this is where things get really crazy, Rich, because you talk about the pressure. Mugi has been here before. He's been world champion. Pedro has been unstoppable all weekend. He hasn't had a match loss. So what does that match loss actually do?
But today, I think that Mugi's gonna come out. We might see a hard counter right out the gate, take advantage of Pedro going to comfort, and I really want to have that GOAT debate become a real thing.
I do too. I want to see a back-to-back world champion, but that does not mean I'm not rooting for Pedro either. Here we go. Grand Finals, reset, the final match of the entire year. Mugi, Pedro, $250,000. Let's go.
But I really have to hope that Pedro does not open minor poison here.
I know. I mean, but it's one of those things. It's like, you really think I'm going to do it again right now? And as of right now, it looks like he just might be running it back. And then we'll see if Mugi takes a page here out of Juicy's book and goes for something heavy, goes for something with lightning. Fisherman, not a bad sign of that.
And this little Prince is going to get picked up and reset by the Fisherman. Mugi splits his goblins in the back. And here we go. It's Mortar game number 1.
And Gob Giant right into it.
What up, future king?
And as a Mortar player, this isn't a great spot to be in, but you do have that little Prince to help everything out. And Valkyrie, we have not seen a lot of her in this competition, and you see Pedro bringing it out in the biggest moments.
And opting to save the elixir and not call in the Guardian throughout that whole exchange. Happy to sacrifice a little bit of damage.
Oh, and now he has an opening to do it. Those bats stop it. Now we see a miner going behind. Is that a small mistake? No, Mugi has some decent defense for it.
Bats for both, but Evo Mortar for Pedro. Evo Bats for Mugi as he mortars to the opposite lane.
And Little Prince, a great response to that. You see Pedro maybe playing a little bit too similarly to how he has in the past. You knew he was going to get doubled down. You knew he was going to try to protect the Mortar. Mugi immediately pulls the trigger on that Guardian and gets some good damage out of it.
This might be the second or third time Valkyrie's been played all weekend.
Yeah.
It's very interesting to come out in this moment.
And Mugi maybe opting to take some damage. He knows Mortar is out of cycle. He knows he can double down on this push. And if his opponent is able to cycle all the way back around, Moogie's thinking he could take advantage of that with his spell power. There we go. Evil Mortar at the bridge. He knew it was coming.
And doing a good job taking advantage of the focus that Moogie had to place on the little prince there to engage with the bats there at the bridge.
And Moogie ready for every single one of these minors so far, Rich. 25-87, 27-09. Our former world champion is turning up the heat. Fireball Rage on top. You know it's coming.
Oh, boy.
That is brilliant.
Bats in. They are being tanked for by the Guardians, so they will survive for a while.
And to pick up a game off of Pedro while he's playing Miner is such a huge swing in momentum.
Oh,
and look at that, predictive Miner, Rich.
And the snowball behind. Will this be enough to get Mortar on tower? No, Goblin Giant goes to the opposite lane. Pedro trying to protect, but that Mortar's not gonna get as much as he would like.
Yeah, maybe just a little bit too much. All of us Mortar players have been there before. You want to double down at the bridge. You want to make sure you can get that connection, but look at that right-hand tower. Moogie is so happy to eat those maybe 2 Mortar shots. No, takes 1 down to 1060.
Take some to give some, and now the Mega Knight comes out. Moogie may be realizing that Pedro struggled against the rage plays. This time not throwing the bowler in here as well.
And I love this play because the worst thing that happens when you cycle those goblins, Rich, is you can't pick up a Miner. But look at the push on that right-hand side.
Devastation, 884, 90 seconds left. And Mortar has just not had the magic that's carried Pedro thus far.
A very nice Goblin Giant. I was kind of looking at the elixir bar there of Moogie, wondering how he wanted to respond. He has played this absolutely perfectly. 1981 now to 884.
Finally starting to catch up a little bit is Pedro, but is the gap too big with 90 seconds left playing Mortar Miner against... There you go.
I like this play a lot, Rich. I really think you got to go hyper-aggressive because we all know Miner Poison, 3-card cycle, and you see Pedro's face. He knows he got caught looking. Moogie, back-to-back wins, and now is 1 game away from being repeat world champion.
Pedro has got to be shaking in his boots. Went comfort game number 1, and you had to imagine that every single game, Moogie was going to cover Miner, was going to cover Mortar, and he...
That must be Rich over there.
And Pedro may be just trying to get some emotes out, just so his fingers do something and he feels a little more comfy.
Yeah, I mean, comfort is what he needs. He doesn't have his comfort deck. He loses with it in game 1. He has the advantage in the previous set. And now all of a sudden, a man that's been here before is just 5 minutes away from glory.
And it's interesting, Andrew, we've taken the whole weekend without really any real staring contests, and then here today, in the last couple of matches, we've seen not 1 but 2.
And you wonder how much of that is actually nerves, right? You know, you go back to that other game where Moogie's playing basically a 4.0 average elixir cost, and Pedro then looking, hindsight is 2020, always you go, should I have just been a little bit more aggressive in single? Because that beatdown push in triple maybe would have just been less easy for him to pull off.
Moogie cycling arrows just to maybe get the right cards in his hand. A little chip damage there to open things up. 40 seconds left until we get to our double elixir time.
I don't know how I feel about putting myself in a position to have to win a game in 1 minute against Moogie.
Yeah, that might be the scariest thing I can imagine.
Yeah.
Does Pedro go big here?
And looking like our admin wanted to get a quick little emote in there. Shout out to whoever that was.
And here we go. Final 10 seconds of regulation. What do you pull out here with everything on the line? Baby Dragon for Pedro.
And Ram Rider to counter from our former world champion.
Pedro will be very happy to have Bowler against the Ram Rider.
And E-Giant. And we see immediately Moogie go opposite lane with that Lumberjack.
He's been so good at knowing when to do that.
And back around to arrows soon should be Moogie. And there we go. This is a pretty great E-Giant on that right side. It just ate Moogie's entire defense up.
And now right back to it. Opportunistic Mother Witch at the bridge. Oh boy.
Tombstone out, Ram Rider in. Doesn't even need the arrows, and that's a big connection.
And the archers aren't following the E-Giant, so they might do a little pressure on the left-hand side, but they really aren't very helpful right now.
No, I think you just straight up ignore them. Recruits will do more than enough.
And they absolutely do. Electro Giant shredded. Now Bowler having to deal with this push on the right-hand side. E-Giant to pull. And Kite here in the middle. Mother Witch in response by Mugi.
Decent damage there from the recruits on the E-Giant, but you obviously want just a little bit more of it. Anti-lightning positioning there with the God Cage. Nice play, and Lumberjack high enough to where you're not comfortable to pull the trigger on that lightning.
Arrows plus poison covering both phases of the archers.
And one of the most under-celebrated cards defensively in the game is that Mother Witch, because she's able to put in a little bit of damage and then make those piggies tank for her. And right now, she's getting so much value from this Tombstone, Rich. I think Pedro needs to be a little bit more cautious about just cycling that Tombstone.
He's not being very conservative here. NATO does hold, though. He has E-Giant plus Archer on the left, Bowler plus Archer on the right. That Electro Giant not going to get much for him.
And recruits back in. Only 1 minute remains here. Mugi basically untouched. 58 seconds away from being a repeat world champion unless Pedro can turn things around and turn them around quick.
Pedro needs to get a Tombstone down. Instead, he's letting the E-Giant stun. E-Giant stun should completely give Pedro great opportunities against that Ram Rider, as every time it snares, ends up hurting itself. But so far, that has not been the story.
And now you can see Mugi turn up the heat on that right-hand lane if he'd like. Tombstone out early, maybe a high Mother Witch. Just has to go defense.
Electro Giant behind, and the archers are not far enough away to totally ruin that Lumberjack. Lightning in, and the arrows clear. One evolved archer still alive.
Rich. Mugi is moments away, 27-35, 23-03, and I believe we might have our first ever repeat world champion, and that is it. 2021, 2023, champ, that's Mugi. He had not lost a game until earlier today when he ran into Pedro. Pedro is the only person who was able to get Mugi's number, and Pedro takes one, Mugi takes the rest.
For so long, he's been so good. A ladder-ranked king, then carried Ponos into our 2020 World Finals, but fell short.